Why, hello, YouTubians! Well, it looks like it's time once again for me to recap my year in the form of a top 10 list. And here it is. And don't worry, I'm going to try to make this as brief and succinct as I possibly can. Starting off at number 10, Season 3 of the Animaniacs reboot on Hulu premiered. Season 1 premiered in 2020, loved it. Season 2 premiered a year later, also loved it. This year, we were greeted to Season 3, and it was incredible. The only complaint I have is that this season is said to be the last, which is a real shame. Just think of all the other possible adventures to be had with the Warner siblings. Number 9. I attended my first Casa Noel wrap party. Now, I've been working at Casa Noel now for about 2 years, and last year I couldn't make their wrap party, but I was able to this year. We had a potluck dinner, there was a gift raffle, I was mentioned and commended for my hard work, and I brought over a noodle dish my grandmother used to make for Thanksgivings and Easters, and it's just a little something to remember her by. Number 8, I discovered the flavor sensation that is pistachios. Sometime in late September is when I discovered that pistachios were, for lack of a better word, delicious. And they're surprisingly good for you. I mean, they're good for your heart, your gut bacteria. They can help lower your bad cholesterol levels, just to name a few. And after this, I also discovered I thoroughly enjoy pistachio ice cream. I've already ranked my top 8 brands and places, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Number 7, I discovered a newfound passion for art. Now, back in school and college, I've attended some art classes, and I've always liked doing art, a lot. But after college, I didn't get into art very much. But all that changed this year. At one point, during one of my visits with my niece, Penny, we were in the kitchen doing some coloring in books and on coloring pages, and that, for me, kind of sparked a newfound interest in art. I wound up getting a bunch of art supplies like crayons, colored pencils. Colored pencils are my preferred method because they're easy to shade and put in as light or as dark shade as you want. And all this led into creating my first major art project in forever ago. A little piece of paint and fake blood on canvas I call Bloody Jack, which took me 3 days to finish. Speaking of having fun with my niece, at number 6, fortune once again smiled on me upon the arrival of my second niece, Daisy. And that just opens up a lot more opportunity for fun uncle things to do. Number 5 was Skylar and Alex's wedding. Remember last year I mentioned that my twin sister Skylar got engaged? Well, this year, August 5th was the day of her wedding. And as I mentioned last year, I was one of Skylar's bridesmen, and I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do, but I was looking forward to it. I've asked her a number of times, what am I supposed to do as a bridesman? She kept holding off the answer until the time came. And that little answer I was waiting for that whole day was joining her in a twin dance. And boy, did I make a fool of myself. I don't want to talk about it. Anyways, number 4, the flicks I've taken in. Working at Cinemark, I've had a chance to see a few great films this year, and I will review each one in as few words as I possibly can. Engaging and emotional with just the right amount of humor. Visually captivating. It was a pure blast to see Harrison Ford don his famous fedora for what is probably his greatest adventure yet. A hilariously raunchy canine adventure. A comedy movie within a horror movie? Yes, please. A very solid prequel to the franchise's second film. A whimsical musical escapade fueled by pure imagination. And not only that, I also got to see some anniversary showings of some movies from the past. Like, I saw Groundhog Day for the first time. It was showing at my theater for its 30th anniversary. I saw The Wizard of Oz in theaters for the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers. I saw The Nightmare Before Christmas for its 30th anniversary. I saw Elf for its 20th anniversary. And I saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail for its 48th and a half anniversary. It is such a thrill to see those movies the way movies are intended to be viewed. On the big screen. In Holy Grail, this showtime was especially special because it was a quote-along version. The audience was free to quote along to the movie whether the quote showed up on the screen or not. And while a few people chose to participate, I think I can safely say I contributed the most, especially during the scenes with the French taunter. It was hilarious. I got both laughs and looks from a few people. Number 3, I got some new tenants residing in my Hall of Fame. Over the course of this year alone, I watched my Hall of Fame grow immensely, with quite a few notable names. Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, John Heder, Steve Whitmire, Roger Craig Smith and Colleen O'Shaughnessy, Tim Curry, Matthew Lillard, Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, Noel McNeil, Lisa Ortiz, Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, Adam Conover, Ben Schwartz, Leslie Ann Warren, Christopher Lloyd, John Cleese, Joey Chestnut, Kevin Clash, the stars of Pulp Fiction, Mike Pollock, Donovan Patton, Josh Dela Cruz, Jason Lee, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, Dana Snyder, Will Smith and Alfonso Ribeiro, Kath Soucie, Paul Fusco, Seth Green, Jennifer Aniston, Matthew Perry and David Schwimmer, Michael Jackson, Bill Murray, Paul Williams, Angelica Houston, D. Bradley Baker, Nico Futterman, Jaleel White, Tobin Bell, Wendy Malick, Stephen Tobolowsky, Elton John, Frankie Muniz, and Amanda Bynes, to name a few. Number 2. Even though it was only this year I discovered it existed, I couldn't be happier with the joy and rapture bundled up into this little show called Bluey. I discovered this show during another visit with my niece back in February, and somewhat immediately I was entranced. And afterwards, I just couldn't stop watching. I mean, this show has got to be one of the greatest kids shows to ever come out in recent years. And that's saying something. What's not to like about it? The animation is great, the music is superb, it's unapologetically Australian, which I love. I love how it's not afraid to tackle serious issues, but with a good amount of sensitivity without making them feel trivialized. And what's really impressive is, out of all the kids shows and teen shows I've seen in my life, this one probably has the most honest depiction of modern family life, which is very refreshing during this day and age. And remember when I said my newfound love of art was sparked when I was coloring in coloring books and coloring pages with my niece? Those coloring books and coloring pages were Bluey themed, and I just couldn't get enough of them. This had to be one of the greatest discoveries for me this year, but it's just been frozen out of top spot today. And before I get to my number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions. My first official concession shift at Cinemark. Before this year, I was working mainly usher at Cinemark, but this year I got my first chance to work concession. Then I started working box office, and before I knew it, I was finally working back and forth between all 3 areas, which was a very nice change of pace. The 2023 Kids' Choice Awards, which I was very happy to see that the winner for favorite movie was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. A couple other foods I tried for the first time this year was roast duck and Wendy's new pretzel baconator. Yummy! And before I continue, once again, I'd like to take a moment of silence to look back on a number of my favorite people that we've lost this year. finally, the #1 event of my 2023 was SciFi Valhalla 2023. This is my 3rd outing to Altoona, Pennsylvania, and this was my best trip there to date, because not only did I get to see Rob Paulson again, but Maurice LaMarche was also there. That's right, Pinky and the Brain themselves were there, and I got to meet them both. There was also noted voice actor Carlos Alazraqui, known for his voice work in shows like Rocko's Modern Life and The Fairly Odd Parents. And this year's convention was especially special because this convention hosted what is probably the biggest reunion of voice actors from Avatar: The Last Airbender in this nation yet. We had Jenny Kwan, Jesse Flower, Cricket Lay, Greg Baldwin, Gray Delisle, Janet Varney, and of course, the one and only Dante Bosco. And here's another highlight of this year's sci-fi. I signed up once again for the costume contest, dressing up as, once again, Steampunk Dr. Eggman, but with a few additions. I used foam, PVC tubing, vinyl tubing, and other things to craft this steampunk mechanical arm, and I also fashioned from my own 2 hands a special mask. It was kind of a half mask deal to hide a burnt and mangled form underneath. And the results were not what I expected. In the costume contest, there were 3 age categories, and once all was said and done, in the adult category, I didn't win 3rd. I didn't win 2nd. 1st place, I didn't win. But one thing I was not thinking about at the time was Best of Show. That's right. My updated Steampunk Dr. Eggman costume managed to snag me Best of Show. In all 3 age categories, there's a 3rd, 2nd, and 1st place for each. However, Best of Show was granted a trophy and a medal for the overall best costume. Best costume overall! I was not expecting this to happen, considering in fact I was up against some pretty tough competition, including a guy dressed in a giant robot costume. It's pretty safe to say I was on cloud 9 that day, having snagged this major award. And now I have it displayed right here in my office. Well, that wraps up my review of 2023. I hope you guys had as much fun this year as I did, and I wish you all the luck in the world for 2024. Until next time, Happy New Year!